Hi everyone! Welcome to D&E's Edu Corner and welcome sa part 1 ng ating tutorial tungkol sa solving equations transformable to quadratic equations including rational algebraic equations. Sa tutorial na ito, isosolve natin ang mga sumusunod na equations. Tandaan na sa mga equations transformable into quadratic equations, maaari tayong maka-encounter ng tinatawag nating extraneous root or solution. Ano nga ba ang extraneous root? Ang extraneous root ay solution ng transformed equation, ngunit hindi ito solution ng ating original equation. Let's have our first example. We have n plus quantity n plus 1 times quantity n plus 2 is equal to 14. Kailangan gawin muna natin itong standard form. Ang standard form ng ating quadratic equation ay ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Ang una natin kailangan gawin ay i-multiply ang ating mga binomials. Kopyahin lamang ang n na nasa unahan. Pagkatapos, i-multiply ang n by the n dito sa ating kabilang binomial. So, n times n, that is n squared. And then n times 2, we have 2n. And then 1 times n, we have n. 1 times 2, we have 2. Is equal to 14. Kopya lang natin yung 14. Next, i-simplify natin yung ating equation. So, we have now n squared, nasa unang term, quadratic term. Sumunod, i-combine natin yung may mga variable na n. So, we have 2n plus n, that will be equal to positive 4n. Tapos, kopyahin natin yung 2 is equal to 14. Kailangan gawin nating 0 itong kabilang side ng ating equation. So, we have to add negative 14 to both sides of the equation. So, magkakaroon tayo ng n squared plus 4n plus 2 minus 14 is equal to 14 minus 14. Simplify. Kopyahin lang natin ang quadratic term, n squared, and then 4n. 2 minus 14, that is negative 12, is equal to 14 minus 14, we have 0. So, ito na ang ating standard form. Sa ating equation, okay lang na maiba ang ating variable na hindi ito x. Okay lang na ito ay n. This is still in standard form. Now, let's solve for our quadratic equation. Let's solve using factoring. Mag-isip tayo ng dalawang factors ng negative 12 na kapag pinag-add, ang sagot ay positive 4. What are those numbers? We have 6 and negative 2. 6 times negative 2, that is negative 12. 6 plus negative 2, answer is positive 4. So, let's use those numbers. Ilagay natin dito sa ating mga factors. So, we have n plus 6 and n minus 2. Let's use the zero product property. Unahin natin ang n plus 6. n plus 6 is equal to 0. Using addition property of equality, kailangan n lamang ang maiwan dito sa side na to. Mag-add tayo both sides ng negative 6. So, we have n plus 6 minus 6 is equal to 0 minus 6. Simplify. This will become 0. N na lamang yung maiiwan sa side na yan is equal to 0 minus 6, that is negative 6. Our first value of n is negative 6. Let's proceed to n minus 2. n minus 2 is equal to 0. Again, using addition property, add both sides by 2 para ma-eliminate natin yung negative 2 sa side na to ng equation. Simplify, maiiwan ng n. That is equal to 0 plus 2, that is 2. We now have two values of n. Kailangan nating i-check yan dahil maaari nga tayong maka-encounter ng tinatawag nating extraneous root or solution. To check, let's use the original equation. This is our equation. Let's have the first value of n, which is negative 6. And then isusunod natin yung n is equal to 2. Ipalit natin yung negative 6 sa ating original equation. Lahat ng n, papalitan natin ng negative 6. So we now have negative 6 plus quantity negative 6 plus 1 times quantity negative 6 plus 2 is equal to 14. Simplify. Ayusin yung nasa loob ng parenthesis. Kopyahin natin negative 6 plus negative 6 plus 1, we have negative 5. Times negative 6 plus 2, we have negative 4, is equal to 14. Negative 6 plus 20 is equal to 14. And negative 6 plus 20, that is equal to 14. Ibig sabihin, valid yung nakuha natin na isang value ng n, which is negative 6. Let's have positive 2. Ipalit natin sa mga variables ng original equation. We have now 2 plus quantity 2 plus 1 times quantity 2 plus 2 is equal to 14. Simplify. This will become 2. Kopyahin lang natin yung nasa unahan. 2 plus 1, that is 3. 2 plus 2, that is 4, is equal to 14. Now, 3 times 4, that is 12. So, we have 2 plus 12 is equal to 14. 2 plus 12, that is 14. 14 is equal to 14. Again, valid din yung ating nakuhang value ng n, which is 2. Meaning, we have two solutions. We have negative 6 or positive 2. Now, let's proceed to our second example. But before that, kagaya ng nakita natin kanina, ang example number 2 at example number 3 ay tinatawag nating rational equations. Ano nga ba ang rational equations? Ang isang rational equation ay nagko-contain ng at least one rational expression or meron tayong tinatawag na fraction sa ating equation. Sa isang rational equation, hindi maaaring maging 0 ang ating denominator. Kaya kailangan maging aware tayo sa tinatawag nating restrictions ng isang rational equation or yung mga value na magkakos ng 0 sa ating denominator. Kailangan nating i-check ang ating mga nagiging solution dahil maaari itong magkaroon ng tinatawag nating extraneous root or solution. Narito ang mga steps ng pag-transform ng rational equation into quadratic equations. First, kailangan nating i-multiply ang both sides ng ating equation by the LCD or the least common denominator. Second, kailangan nating isulat ang ating quadratic equation in standard form. And then, we have to find the roots of our equation using any method. And of course, we have to check for the values of x na ating mga makukuha. Let's proceed to our example number 2. Our equation is x plus 1 is equal to 72 divided by x. Now, mag-set tayo ng restriction ng x. Ibig sabihin, mag-isip tayo ng number na kapag ipinalit natin sa x ay magiging 0 ang denominator. Ano ba yung value ng x na yon? Answer is 0. So, x should not be equal to 0 dahil magkakaroon tayo ng 72 over 0. Hindi maaaring maging 0 ang denominator dito sa ating rational equation. Now, let's identify ano naman yung LCD sa ating equation. Ang LCD natin dito ay x. Ngayon na mayroon na tayong LCD, i-multiply na natin ito to both sides of our equation. So we have x times the quantity x plus 1 is equal to the quotient of 72 and x times x. Let's multiply. I-distribute natin ang x dito sa nasa loob ng ating parenthesis. So x times x, the answer is x squared. And then x times 1, answer is positive x. So we now have x squared plus x. Next, yung x dito, i-multiply lang natin sa ating numerator. Okay, and kung mapapansin natin, hindi ko pa siya i-sinisimplify. We have 72 times x divided by x. The reason kung bakit hindi ko pa siya i-multiply ay dahil mas madali nating makikita ano yung ma-eliminate natin or ma-divide natin sa numerator and denominator. So dito, kita natin na maaari na nating i-divide si x sa ating denominator na x. So this will be eliminated. Simplify natin, ang matitira sa ating equation ay x squared plus x is equal to 72. Kasi x divided by x, that is equal to 1. So may iwan na yung ating 72. Gawin nating standard form ang ating nakuhang equation. Mag-add tayo both sides ng negative 72. Simplify. This will become x squared plus x minus 72 is equal to 72 minus 72, that is 0. I-solve natin using factoring. Mag-isip tayo ng dalawang numbers or factors ng negative 72 na kapag pinag-add natin, ang magiging sagot ay positive 1. Ang mga numbers na yon ay 9 and negative 8. 9 times negative 8, answer is negative 72. 9 plus negative 8, answer is positive 1. Ilagay natin ang mga numbers na ating nakuha dito sa ating mga factors. So we have plus 9 and minus 8. Let's use the zero product property. Kunin muna natin ang x plus 9. X plus 9 is equal to 0. Using addition property, add tayo to both sides ng negative 9. And then, simplify. X na lamang ang may iwan sa side na ito kasi 9 minus 9, that is 0. And then 0 minus 9, we have negative 9. The first value of x is negative 9. Now let's have x minus 8. X minus 8 is equal to 0. Using addition property, add tayo to both sides ng 8. And then simplify. Ang may iwan na lamang dito ay x because negative 8 plus 8, that is 0. So 0 plus 8, that is 8. Ang pangalawang value ng x na ating nakuha ay 8. I-check natin ang ating mga nakuhang values ng x. Gamitin natin ang ating original equation. We have x is equal to negative 9 and x is equal to 8. Unahin natin ang negative 9. Ipalit natin sa ating original equation. Lahat ng x, papalitan natin ng negative 9. So we have here negative 9 plus 1 is equal to 72 divided by negative 9. Negative 9 plus 1, that is negative 8, is equal to 72 divided by negative 9. Answer is negative 8. So we have negative 8 is equal to negative 8. Valid yung ating solution na negative 9. How about 8? Ipalit natin sa original equation. We have 8 plus 1 is equal to 72 divided by 8. 8 plus 1, that is 9. And 72 divided by 8, that is 9 also. So that is correct. Valid din yung ating solution na x is equal to 8. Therefore, ang solution ng ating original equation ay negative 9 or positive 8. Now, let's proceed to our third example. Ang ating given ay x over x minus 1 plus 2 over x is equal to 1 over x minus 1. I-set muna natin ulit yung ating restrictions. Ano-ano yung mga value ng x na hindi maaaring gamitin dahil magkakaroon tayo ng 0 sa ating denominator. Dito muna tayo sa unang denominator. X minus 1. Ano yung value ng x na kapag ipinalit natin dito ay magkakaroon tayo ng 0 sa denominator? We have 1. Because 1 minus 1, that is 0. Dito naman sa pangalawang denominator, ano yung value ng x na hindi natin maaaring gamitin? Answer is 0. And dito naman sa ating pangatlong denominator, kagaya lamang ng nasa unang denominator, hindi natin maaaring gamitin ang positive 1. Kasi kapag ipinalit natin ang positive 1 sa x, 1 minus 1, that is 0. So mayroon tayong dalawang values ng x na restricted or hindi natin maaaring gamitin sa equation na ito. Yun ay ang 0 at positive 1. Now, mayroon na tayong restrictions. Punta naman tayo sa LCD. Ano ang LCD ng ating mga denominator? Ang ating LCD ay x at x minus 1. Mayroon tayong magkaparehong x minus 1, kaya isasama natin yan sa ating LCD. At wala naman tayong ibang monomial na dito kundi x, isasama na rin natin ito sa ating LCD. So, ang ating LCD ay x times quantity x minus 1. Ngayon na mayroon na tayong LCD, i-multiply na natin ito to both sides of our equation. Magkakaroon tayo ng x times quantity x minus 1 times quantity x over x minus 1 plus 2 over x. That is equal to, i-multiply din natin si LCD dito sa 1 over x minus 1. I-multiply natin ang ating LCD sa mga numerators. And magkakaroon tayo ng ganitong equation. X times quantity x minus 1, i-multiply natin dito sa x at saka sa 2. Kaya, magkakaroon tayo ng x times quantity x minus 1 times x all over x minus 1 plus x times quantity x minus 1 times 2 all over x. At ganun din sa kabilang side ng ating equation, i-multiply natin ang x times quantity x minus 1 dito sa numerator na 1. Kaya, magkakaroon tayo ng x times quantity x minus 1 all over x minus 1. Hindi ko muna isinimplify or i-multiply yung LCD sa numerator para mas mabilis nating makita ano ba yung maaari nating eliminate sa numerator at denominator. Dito sa ating unang term, maaari na nating eliminate ang x minus 1 na nasa numerator at nasa denominator. Kapag i-divide natin yan, that is equal to 1. Next, dito sa pangalawang term, ano ang maaari na nating i-eliminate? Tama, maaari na nating eliminate yung x sa numerator at x sa denominator. At dito sa kabilang side ng ating equation, maaari na rin nating eliminate ang x minus 1 at x minus 1 sa denominator. Ngayon, isimplify na natin ang mga natira sa ating equation. We now have x times x sa unang term. Sa pangalawang term, ang natira ay x minus 1 times 2. At sa kabilang side, ang natira ay x. I-simplify na natin ito. X times x, that is x squared. And then, plus, i-simplify natin 2 times x, that is 2x. And then 2 times negative 1, that is negative 2, is equal to x. So, ito na yung ating panibagong equation. Gawin nating 0 yung nasa kabilang side ng equation. Using addition property of equality, mag-add tayo ng negative x to both sides of our equation para maging 0 ang nasa kabilang side ng equation. And then simplify. Copy natin yung quadratic term na x squared. Tapos 2x minus x, answer is positive x. Kopyahin lang natin yung ating negative 2. Ang ating equation ay x squared plus x minus 2 is equal to 0. Maaari na nating isolve ang ating nakuhang quadratic equation. So from this equation, this is the original, na i-convert na natin siya into quadratic equation na x squared plus x minus 2 is equal to 0. I-solve natin using quadratic formula naman. Identify natin ang values ng A, B, and C. Ang value ng A natin ay 1, ang value ng B ay 1, at ang value ng C ay negative 2. Ipalit natin yan dito sa ating quadratic formula. Using substitution, magkakaroon tayo ng negative 1 kasi we have the value of B which is 1. Positive, negative, square root of B squared, ang B natin ay 1, so magkakaroon tayo ng 1 squared, minus 4A, ang A natin ay 1, at ang C natin ay negative 2. All over 2A, so ang A natin, again, that is 1. Simplify. So we have negative 1, positive, negative, 1 squared, that is 1. And then 4 times 1 times negative 2, that is negative 8, times the negative sign here, kaya magkakaroon tayo ng positive 8. All over 2 times 1, that is 2. Simplify yung nasa loob ng ating square root sign. 1 plus 8, that is 9. So we have negative 1, positive, negative, square root of 9, all over 2. The square root of 9 is 3. So ang ating bagong equation ay x is equal to negative 1, positive, negative 3, all over 2. Gagamitin natin dito yung positive 3 at negative 3. Unahin natin yung sa positive 3. Para makuha ang value ng x, we have negative 1 plus 3 all over 2. Inuna natin yung positive 3. So, negative 1 plus 3, answer is 2, divided by 2. Therefore, x is equal to 1. Next, doon naman tayo sa negative 3. We have negative 1 minus 3 all over 2. Negative 1 minus 3, that is negative 4, divided by 2. So, x is equal to negative 2. I-check natin yung mga values na nakuha natin. Let's check gamit ang original equation. Ipalit natin yung ating mga nakuhang values ng x, which are 1 and negative 2. Dito muna tayo sa x is equal to 1. Papalitan natin yung mga x ng positive 1. We now have 1 over 1 minus 1 plus 2 over 1 is equal to 1 over 1 minus 1. Kung mapapansin natin dito, kapag i-minus natin yan, 1 minus 1, magkakaroon tayo ng 0 sa ating denominator. And yun yung restricted natin na value ng x. Therefore, ang x is equal to 1 ay ang tinatawag nating extraneous root or solution. Hindi solution ng original equation ang x is equal to 1. Let's have x equals negative 2. I-check natin. Ipalit natin sa ating original equation. We have negative 2 over negative 2 minus 1 plus 2 divided by negative 2 is equal to 1 over negative 2 minus 1. Simplify natin. Negative 2 minus 1, that is negative 3. And then 2 divided by negative 2, magkakaroon tayo ng negative 1 is equal to 1 over negative 2 minus 1, this will become negative 3. Simplify, negative 2 divided by negative 3, magkakaroon tayo ng positive 2/3. Minus 1 is equal to positive 1 divided by negative 3, answer is negative 1/3. So, gamitan na lang natin ang shortcut. So, ang denominator dito sa negative 1 ay 1. So, 3 times 1, ang ating denominator ay 3. And then, cross multiply, 2 times yung denominator na 1, that is 2. And then, negative 1 times the denominator 3, we have negative 3. So, 2 minus 3, that is negative 1 over 3, which is equal to negative 1/3. Ibig sabihin, valid yung ating nakuhang solution na x is equal to negative 2. So, para sa ating third equation, ang root ay negative 2. That's it for the part 1 of our tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope that you subscribe for more tutorials.